Hi everyone, Victor here again, and in today's lesson, we're going to continue with our previous lesson, which is how to set and manage permissions in Linux. We are going to look at how to change the ownership of a file, and we're also going to look at what special permissions are and how to set them in Linux. As we have now known from our previous lesson that every file has an owner and as well a group owner. And as an administrator or as a user that has the privilege, you can decide to change the ownership of a file or the group ownership of a file. So let's say you are the admin and you don't like John's face. So because you don't like John's face, John might have created um, a file, or you might have even created a file and you made the owner of the file, you made John the owner of the file. You can decide to change the ownership of that file. You can give the ownership of the file to Lisa. You can also change the group ownership of a file from one group to the other group. So the command that you will use to change the ownership of a file is chown, and the command that you will use to change the group ownership of a file is chgrp. Having understood this, let's get to the action time section, I mean. So what I'm going to do is, as we usually do in this course, we have three sections. The first section, which is the understanding the subject matter section. The second section is the action time section, which is the Red Hat how to section. And the third section is the Ubuntu Auto section. Because this is going to be a very short demo, I'm going to be combining section 2 and section 3 together. So let's just get started. So this is my Red Hat Enterprise Linux server, and let's create a file. So I can just say touch file 1, and if I do ls-l, you can see that file 1 has been created, and the owner of the file is root. The group owner of the file is root. And like I said, you can change the ownership of this file. And I'm also logged in as a root user. So as a root user, if I want to give the ownership of file 1 to, so let's say some users we have on this system. So I have few users. So let's give the ownership of this file to Ola. So I can say chown, then followed by the name of the user, which is Ola. I want to give the file 1 to Ola. So if I say enter and I do ls-l, now you can see that Ola owns the file 1. So for the group, you can also use the chown command to change the ownership of a group. So if I want to do that, if I do chown dash dash help, yeah, you can see here, you can see examples. This is how you're going to use the chown command. Chown options owner and file, or group and file. And if you look at the example here, you can see how it's being used. So for the group, which is this, I'm going to say, so let me look at some groups that I have here. Let's say group. Okay, I have the sales group. So if I do ls-l again, so I can say chown. So let's do chown dash dash help again. Alright, so I can say chown, which is this. The owner of the file is root. I mean, we changed it to Ola, right? So it's still Ola. And I want to change the group ownership to sales on file 1. So if I do ls-l, You can now see that the group ownership of this file is sales. So we can use the chown command to change both the user ownership and the group ownership of the file. Another command that you can use to change the group ownership of a file is the chgrp command. So if I do chgrp dash dash up, you can see that you can also use the chgrp command. So what we're going to do is, if I do ls dash l again, from the sales, from the group ownership, from the sales group ownership, we can change it back to, let's change it back to Ola. Ola is actually a primary group. So I can say chgrp Ola, then file 1. If I do ls dash l, so you can see now that the group ownership of this file is Ola, and the same is applicable to the Ubuntu server 2 as well. So for the Ubuntu server, let's just create a file. I can say touch file 1, and if I do ls dash l, I can do chown from the root user. I think I have the user technique on the system. Then I can say okay, touch file 1. There's a file called file 1 here already. So let's create another file. So touch file 2, ls dash l. Okay, I have file 2 here, so I can say own. So I'm going to change the user ownership of file 2 to, let me see the numbers of users I have here. Cat etc slash password. Okay, I have technique 2, technique 3, I have joy and the likes. So ls dash l, I can say chown. Yeah, let's change the ownership to joy for file 2. So I'm going to say file 2. If I do ls dash l, so you can see that the owner of this file is not joy. And for the group ownership, I can do the same too as well. So I can say chown joy. Then I can change it to a primary group called joy too as well if I want to do that. And if I do ls dash l, you can see that the group ownership or the group owner of this file is still joy. And I can also use the chgrp command to do that as well. So let me change the group ownership to technique 3. So technique 3 file 2. So if I do ls dash l, now you can see that the group owner of this file is technique 3. So this is how you can change the user ownership of a file and the group ownership of a file both on Red Hat systems and on Ubuntu systems. So having understood this, let's talk about the special permissions. There are other advanced permissions other than the read, write, and execute in Linux, and they are the set user ID, set group ID, and the sticky bit permission. So the set user ID from the word set user targets the user owner of a file. When you use the permission set user ID on a file, it means that any user at all on the system has the execute permission. So let's create a file for a demo so we can flow together. For this demo, I will also be combining the how to section for the Red Hat and the Ubuntu together. So let's create a file. I can create a file and say this is Red Hat system. So I can say touch file 3, and if I do ls-l, you can see that we have the file 3 file being created. And like I said, that the set user ID permission targets the user side only. And you can see the permission section for the user side. We have read, write, and dash. So to set the set user ID permission, we can use the command, of course, chmod. And like I said, it's for user only, that is the user owner of this file. So that's going to be user plus S. So S means set user ID. You can also use the absolute mode to set the set user ID, and the permission for that is number 4. You can check the documentation. Like I said, we have documentation for for this lesson and for the whole course. So you can check the description box below for the documentation. Moving forward, so if I say ch mode user, that's the set user ID. So it's target user, and that's why we are saying user plus s. S is the set user ID permission, and then I can say file 3. And if I do ls-l, now look at what happens here. You can see that if you look at the permission, you can see read write and s, which signifies the set user ID permission. Like I said again, that the set user ID means that when you have this permission being set, any other user on the system can execute the file. And you can see that it is on the third octet of this section, which is the execute section. So and that's why you're seeing the set user ID permission. You're seeing it at the execute part of this user permission. That's the third octet. So that means that you have the set user ID permission. And what I also want to mention is you can see that you have the uppercase S here. You're having the uppercase S there because you don't have an execute permission before on that file. You know, there is no way on this earth when you see a file, when you're looking at the attributes of a file, for example, if you look at this file 3, the only way you can know on this earth that you have the set user ID permission is this symbol, which is S. So there is no way you can know. And again, if you want to know before whether this file has an execute permission or it does not have an execute permission before the set user ID permission was set, the only way you can know that is the uppercase S and the lowercase s. So this is what I mean. Let's create another file. If I say touch file 4, and if I do ls-l file 4, you can see that of course we don't have the execute permission being set here. So I'm just going to set the execute permission. I can say chmod user plus execute, and I say file 4. And if I do ls-l file 4 again, you can now see that I have the execute permission. Now look at it. Let's set the set user ID permission. So I can say chmod u plus s, that's file 4, and I do ls, and if I do ls-l, you can now see that here I have a lowercase s. So it's just trying to tell you that okay, you are the admin and you're looking at the file and you're saying, oh okay, this is file 4 and I have a lowercase s. So this simply means that yeah, of course, I have the set user ID permission on this file. And it also means that yeah, before the set user ID permission was set on this file, there was actually an execute permission before, and then we now did the set user ID permission, and that's why we have a lowercase s. So if it is an uppercase s, like we have in this case, oops, my mouse is misbehaving. I think I have the other mouse pin up. Okay, so if I have the uppercase s, yeah, my mouse is stable now. So if I have the oops, what's happening? Oh, all right. If I have the uppercase s like we have here, so it means that before we did the set user ID permission, there was no execute permission on that file. So the set user ID permission again, right? When you have this permission being set, it means that any other users on the system can actually execute this file. And that is why you can see that it's even been colored red. You should know that this permission is very dangerous or the queries key. So be very careful when you're using this permission. You must know what you're doing exactly before setting this permission on a Linux system. And also sometimes I wonder why there is this permission when I can easily set the execute permission for users, group and others. Well, please you can drop in the comment section if you know any other reason why this permission is useful. But for me, I've thought about it many times and I'm like, okay, why do I have the access user ID permission? But yeah, we learn every day. If you know any other reason, I'd like to know that in the comment section below. A quick one before we look at the set group ID permission, let's quickly do a session for the Ubuntu section. And for the Ubuntu, yeah, I'm gonna create a file, touch file 3. If I do ls-l, we have file 3 being created, and if I do chmod, if I say user plus set user ID on file 3, and if I do ls-l, you can see that I have this permission being set. Now, yeah, this is it. Oops. I think my mouse is really misbehaving. So if I do yeah, if I do touch file 4, oops, touch file 4, and I do chmod user plus execute on file 4, and I do ls-l file 4, and I do chmod user plus s file 4, and I do ls-l file 4. So you can see that we have the same thing here. So for both the Red Hat and the Ubuntu systems, you will use the same method to set the set user ID and yeah to set the set user ID permission. And like I said again, the set user ID permission means that any user whatsoever on the system can execute a file when that file has the set user ID permission. An example of a file that has the set user ID permission by default is I think is here ls/r/bin/password. So you can see that this file has the set user ID permission by default. And on the contrary too, the set user ID permission does not have an effect on a directory. So let us look at what the set group ID permission is. The set group ID from the word set group targets the group owner of a file. When you use the permission set group ID on a file, it means that the group owner of the file has the execute permission, just like the set user ID permission. And like I said, that is on a file. Now for a directory, when you use the set group ID permission, it means that any newly files created in that directory will have their group ownership set to that of the directory owner. The set group ID is mostly used in a shared group environment and it can be very effective. So let's see an example of this for both the Red Hat and Ubuntu systems. So if I do ls-l, we have some files here and we're going to be setting the set group ID permission on file 5. If you want to use the numeric mode or the absolute mode, the number you will use to set this set group ID permission is 2. And if you want to use the absolute, I mean the symbolic mode like we've been using, you're going to use the command chmod. And like I said, the set group ID targets the group, and that is why you're going to be having group plus the set group ID permission on file 5. If I say enter and I do ls-l, you can see that for file 5, if you look at the group section on the execute part, you can see that the permission has been set. Don't forget that I said that the set group ID permission for file means that every member of that group will be able to execute that file. And now for a directory, if you want to use the set group ID permission for a directory, so this is okay, let's create a directory. If I do mkdir, let's say file 6, if I do ls-l, so the same thing is applicable to the directory. If I do chmod g plus s file 6 and I do enter and I do ls-l again, let's see file 6. So you can see now that this the set group ID permission is on file 6, and the uppercase lowercase shenanigans is also applicable to the set group ID permission. And I also want to mention that you should also be very careful when using this permission. You should know what you're doing. And like I've said, that this permission can be very effective for a shared group environment and for the Ubuntu system too. So if I do ls-l, so if you're going to be using the set group ID permission on file 1, for example, you can just say chmod g plus s file 1, and if you do ls-l, you can see that this set group ID permission has been set here. And if I also make a directory, so let me say make directory of file 3, if I do ls-l, and if I do chmod g plus l s on file 3, and I do ls-l, you can now see that the set group ID permission has been created on the directory called file 3. And finally, let us look at what the sticky bit permission is. Like we have the set user ID permission for user, the set group ID permission for group. Similarly, the sticky bit permission has been classified as others. The sticky bit permission does not have any effect on a file, but on a directory, when you have the sticky bit permission being set, it means that no any other user will be able to delete a file created in that directory except the owner of the file or the root user. This permission restricts file deletion. So let's say Lisa and John are a member of the sales group, and the sales group has the right or delete permission on a particular file. If John is the owner of the file, Lisa will not be able to delete the file. However, Lisa can write on the file. So, whichever file any user creates in that directory, it is only that user that can delete the file, or the root user, which is the super user on the system. So let's see an example of these two. So let me just clear my screen. If I do ls-l again, you can see here we have file 6 here, which is a directory. And like I said that the sticky bit permission only has effect on a directory. So if I want to set the sticky bit permission with the numeric mode, I can use the number 1. And if I want to use the symbolic mode, I can just use the command chmod. Like I said, that the sticky bit permission target others. So that will be O, that is others, plus T, meaning sticky bit on the directory file 6. If I do enter, if I do ls-l, if I do ls-l, you can see that on file 6. This, like I told you, this target others, and this is the other section, which is read-t. and you can see that this T means that this file has the sticky bit permission. So if I also have the uppercase, so the uppercase T, the lowercase t shenanigan too, like we've seen in the set group ID and the set user ID, it means that I do not, or it means that rather I already have the execute permission here, and that's why I have the lowercase t. If I don't have the execute permission here, I'm going to be having the uppercase T here. And for the Ubuntu systems, it's the same thing. If I, where's the directory? Okay, file 3, just clear the screen. If I do ls-l and I do chmod others plus sticky bit on file 3. So what I can also do is, if I, even if I do not put others, it's, the system already knows that the sticky bit is for others. So if I do chmod plus t and I do file 3, the file permission will still be applicable. It will still set. You can see it here too. So it's just like even when you're using the set user ID permission, if I do chmod, if I don't use user plus s and I just say plus s, the system already knows that I'm doing that for the set user ID permission. However, for group, you need to add the g plus s. So this is all about the special permissions. We've looked at the set user ID permission, we've looked at the set group ID permission, and we've also looked at the sticky bit permission. So in our other lesson, in the next lesson, we're going to be looking at the access control list. So this is another form of permission on Linux system. I want to say thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment. When you do this, you will encourage us to do more of these videos. And as usual, I'll be dropping the link to the documentation and practice questions in the description box below. Thank you for watching once again, and bye for now.